Oddity, a horror adventure game. We play a stranger in a strange town surrounded by danger and terrible secrets. Stranded in town, we must find a way to escape. How we escape is up to us. Do we seek the aid of others in a town filled with broken souls and terrible monsters? Or shall we pave our way to freedom with blood? Oddity plays with context data and the elements of time travel and deja vu. Our actions have consequences and can even affect characters and events in new playthroughs or after reloading to a previous point in the game. This allows characters to react differently in past and future events. A character that may have mistrusted us earlier but later grew into a loyal ally may remember our bond when we reload to a previous point, giving us access to new events we may have never experienced on the first encounter. This may also create enemies if we aren't careful. Oddity has been in production since August 2015, built from scratch by UAT students and led by Harlan Whitfield. Most of the major elements are in place and recently shifted to a focus on gameplay. Due to the amount of interactivity, Oddity plans to have a diverse and extensive branch of possibilities for us to explore as we try to escape our terrible situation. We plan to have a complete demo exploring the earliest parts of the game by next summer, if not sooner.
So working as part of the UAT Production Studios, it's a bit different experience than most other classes, especially working as a Scrum Master on a project. It's dealing a lot with Axosoft and trying to get some of the management side done with it, for who's done what, who's responsible for doing what, the time that's left to work on specific parts, kind of cutting out what we've kind of put on a back burner or have cut from the project and making sure that all of our data saying that we're moving forward is fairly accurate. So yeah, it's definitely the closest thing to an actual full production experience that you'll get here. So it's definitely a much uniquer class than what you're going to be typically used to. It's definitely not that I'm going to sit in and listen to a lecture for so long. It's all about the experience that you have and working on a project. Granted, the big drawback is you don't have the time that you would put into a typical production cycle. It's about 1/4 that, but it does give you the taste of it. It is still plenty of time to complete smaller scope projects, and so it's definitely a good experience to have under your belt. So this semester, working on Oddity, we got pretty far. We had plans to get a little bit further than we did. However, I'm pretty proud of where we got with it. We got much further than where it was at. We added a lot of dialogue, a lot of gameplay to the game, as well as a few new characters that really added depth to the story. We moved more away from the linear progression of the dialogue system, where it all kind of resulted in the same result, and moved towards more multi-directional. Your choices actually matter. The choices you make influence the dialogue that you'll read on and the experience that you'll have in the game, and I think we really knocked it out of the park working on that and implementing that into the game. I can't wait to see what everybody says about it. It's been an experience working on Oddity, and a good one at that.
So the studio production to me is not only necessarily a class, but an experience that you need to have as any formation or any job in the game design or game world. If you want to be in an industry, it's very hard to learn how you're going to be in an industry just by taking classes, staying and seeing, reading, or listening to dialogue, or listening to people talk to you about things. You need to experience it directly. You need to understand that things will go wrong, and it is your job or your teammate's job to communicate and make sure that you fix that thing. And that's how we learn best, is just to make mistakes so that we can grow.
There you go.
With Oddity, I really love the experience. The game, it just called to me, kind of. I love this kind of atmosphere, the way that the player just doesn't know what's going on until the game tries to give hints, but it's all up to the player's exploration and their choice whether they find something or not. So it's always been a challenge to me, like even outside of Oddity, to like predict what the player is going to do. And I think that's one of the most important things as a game designer or anything in the game world, is just understanding what your player is going to do and how they're doing it. I've been doing these kind of role-playing scenarios for almost 12, 14 years now, and I still can't do it. It's not possible. But when you only have for the 4 selections for each screen, it becomes a challenge, and that challenge was a welcome thing I wanted. To really give the options in order to give the player a way to find out more about this world that they've just entered. And I hope that once they go in, they probably either want to leave because they're a little creeped out by it, or they don't want to leave because it's just their thing.
I've been on the Oddity team for like a couple of weeks now. It's actually really nice because I know Unity pretty well, and it is a Unity project which lets me actually be helpful, which is really fun. Team has lots of synergy, and there's one other programmer, and it's nice because you can be like, I'm stuck, help, and they're like, oh, it's this, and you're like, oh. But having more than one person is always super nice. It's just kind of a fallback thing. But the class is really nice. It's my first time being in any kind of production environment, so you learn a lot. But no, it's really good. This is a good team. Game will be good.
Okay, so hi, I'm Kayla. I'm an artist on Oddity for the last 2 semesters with the Game Production studio. So far my experience has been really good. I've learned a lot of stuff from being on the team and in the class, and working with other teams and artists. So I think it'll be really good for working in the industry. So learning how to work with the team, learning how to work together with your leads and all of that is a really good experience.
Mm-hmm.
Axel Pacheco, one of the artists for Oddity. I've pretty much been working on it for 2 semesters now, both through the game studio. It's been a real good learning experience. I've been able to do a lot more art stuff in I guess a certain amount of time than also, because most people might just do stuff for a regular class and usually don't do much of it. That stuff afterwards, my free time. But with Game Production Studio, I'm working on a weekly basis, always trying to make new stuff. With Oddity, I've been able to do a lot more concept art related things, which is kind of what I want to be when I get in the game industry. I want to be a concept artist. So this has been helping me develop the skills a bit better. I've been learning new techniques and everything. Game Production Studio is just good, but you learn from both your lead or people on your team. You get a lot of practice in. It's been really good. It's been helping a bit. I'm wearing down my tablet's pen though, so that may mean that I've been working a lot more than usual then.
Hello, my name's Harlan, lead of Project Oddity. My experience with the UAT production courses has been rather interesting, very enlightening. When I first started off with UAT, I actually was part of a couple different projects, and then after I graduated, I was able to pitch my own idea, Oddity, to UAT, allowing me to build 3 different iterations. Well, it allowed me to build teams for 3 semesters from UAT students. And with their help, I was able to make what you're able to see now, at least for summer 2016. So, yeah, the production studios are rather unique. Unlike learning everything from just out of a book or basic homework, you actually learn more about how to communicate with the team, how to actually bring all of these different skills together to actually make something, not just what you can do yourself. And as a project lead, you actually get to learn more about communication and managing, and it's a lot to think about. It's more than just worrying about what art tasks you're given or what kind of program you have to build for the next mechanic. You pretty much plan out all that, figure what you can do yourself if you have those skills, and then try to figure out the strengths and shortcomings of each member of the team and fitting with the tasks that best suit their skills, and hopefully teaching them and teaching everyone and learning yourself what we can and can't do and how to actually do anything that we can't do. There's been a lot with the system that we've had for our game that was rather new for a lot of us, and we just worked through those troubles, running into all sorts of errors, very small stuff to bigger things, and trying to figure out what can we build in 15 weeks. Although 15 weeks turned out to be more like roughly 10, as you spend a week or two getting the team assembled, communicating what's going to be done, planning what we're going to do, and then going from there. Not to mention, near the end of each semester, things start to wind down and you worry more about how to pitch your idea again. So it's all, as a lead, you worry not only how do I make this game in X amount of time, how do I communicate to my team what needs to be done, and what are the current skills and resources I have, but also what is the size of my project, what is needed, what is really needed for what it is I'm trying to communicate to the player and the team. There are a lot of things that Oddity wanted to do, but first we had to build the foundation, and then every small little idea we thought would be really neat, we had to boil down how much time that would actually take to make, and then decide whether or not it was worth pursuing that. For this semester, we've actually went back to the first part of the game and focused more on increasing the amount of detail and playability, whereas in the last couple semesters, starting off, we were just trying to get a game together, because it just started off with documentation and drawings, and then from there we tried to expand and get pretty much from A to B as quickly as possible when it came to basic storyline, so that from there we would have a foundation to build all the winding paths and fine-tune the details later. But we kind of scrapped that and just went straight to the beginning, started adding all those little gritty details to try and make a more in-depth portion of the game instead of a very large, hollow skeleton of a game. And it kind of best fit this size of a team. Starting off, I had about roughly a dozen students, including myself, and learning how to organize not only myself, my team for the first time, who I could speak to in person. We also had people who were pretty much temporary. They would only be there for about 5 weeks out of the 15, and they were online students, so they were not always in person talking to us, and it was finding the time to talk to them, to explain things in detail, when they may not be able to sit there in the other meetings that we would have in person. Second semester was mostly people that I got to talk to in person, and we had more of a foundation to work off of, and we just tried to expand that. It was a little bit easier after we learned a lot of the weird hiccups, and then this semester we actually had 5 people. 2 artists, 2 designers, 1 new programmer who had to figure out pretty much everything that came before her, and then myself, and learning how to communicate to the team the idea, the style, and what to expect as best as I could, and also at the same time manage hosting or advertising the game at Comic-Con, and figuring out whether or not I have the personal funds to buy a place for a Game On Expo, and how to balance my outside life on top of the project life. So there's a lot to it. It's not just being a student, but you actually get to learn what it is to be a producer. It's quite a fascinating class. I would recommend doing it if you can. UAT is a great way to experiment with gaming with some guidance and resources. It can be a bit pricey going to school for this type of thing, and technically you can argue that you can learn all this on your own, which is true, but I find that although it would have been less expensive long term to learn all this by myself or with a group of friends who decide to fiddle around with stuff, I wouldn't have known about all these events and had the basic networking and gotten the deals off of hosting what kind of demo we had at Comic-Con, and knowing all these students that I can now network with who are branching out in the industry and learning more what they know. And they have pros and cons. The university is definitely an investment. You have to apply yourself really hard. I would recommend being serious about gaming and wanting to create something, not just how, I like games and I'm going to make games, it's going to be fun. It's actually a lot of work. There are times where I just need a break because when I'm not working 1 or 2 jobs, I'm also, losing sleep and social time and whatever else I want to do with my life to, get down and manage a team and not always actually work on art or anything else of the game. It's mostly just meetings and managing. But it is something I do love, and I hope if you want to create games that you understand that it is something that you truly want to do. And I would say going through this production class has taught me a lot. It does take a lot of discipline. You do have to really enjoy the craft, not just playing games and what games are, but understanding what it takes to make a game and all the work that goes into, making your favorite, worlds. You quite literally are making a world. That's one thing that I find fascinating about being a game producer is you get to be your own little god, not just, a character in like Minecraft or something where you are limited by the rules the game impose on you, but as a game producer, you get to make those rules. You get to forge this little scenario, these little events, these experiences for others to enjoy. And as a producer, you have to know what it is you're trying to convey or bring to your audience. It's not just knowing how to make a cat jump over a box or whatever it is you're trying to do. If you want to make something more than just a basic platformer, or even still making a basic platformer, you have to understand the subtlety that goes into game design, into art, and making things efficient and feel good just by pressing that button. How does you make someone feel good when they jump or talk to a person or just walk across the room, instead of it being a weird, boring slideshow or whatever? There's a lot to it. It's really an art, and it's a lot of hard work, but I think when you look at it and you go through it, it's really something that you can really be proud of doing. I would say it's almost like having a kid, except probably a lot less screaming. Well, you might be screaming a lot sometimes, but the game's not likely to scream at you unless you make Scream the simulator or something like that. But anywho, Oddity, I hope to make a demo soon for everyone to enjoy, but I also just enjoy making the game, and it may take a while for me to actually finish what it is I want to give to you to play, but I'm enjoying every step of it, as difficult as it may be sometimes. But yeah, as long as I feel it's worthwhile, I'm going to keep working on it and do what I can to bring an interesting experience for you to play. And UAT has been a really big help in me acquiring this, me just doing this. So I'm really thankful for everyone who's supported me on this. So yeah, Oddity is going to keep on rolling, and I hope I get whatever support I can, and I hope you just enjoy what we do, even if we don't get to finish it to the level I'm hoping to the next month, 2 years, whatever it takes. I'm just enjoying the ride, and I hope you do too.